This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, a vibrant online learning community providing high-quality educational content, the opportunity to connect with peers, and an outlet for new ideas in the field of nonprofit fundraising research.
Prospect management is much more about internal behavior. What are you doing with the prospect? And that requires a lot of data collection and organization, which is a little bit more data structure rather than information analysis. I really feel grateful that I get to spend my days working with people and working with data. A little bit of both.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. This interview is part of the Career Curious series. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Susan Hayes-McQueen, Senior Director, Prospect Management, Research and Analytics at the University of Washington.
Hello, Susan.
Hi,
Thank you for
Jen.
joining us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
And I love the blue feather boa. Do you want to tell people what that's all about?
It's actually purple and gold. I'm sorry it doesn't show purple. These are husky colors. We are very proud huskies here, and there's a lot of purple in the office. So I thought, well, I'll put on my purple boa because this is a fancy opportunity to be with you. So
And
go Huskies.
Yeah, go Huskies. The octopus there looks purple to me. And
Yes.
probably isn't.
Well,
Purple
he's a great Pacific octopus. Here you are learning about
Okay.
octopuses, and they are kind of a reddish purple. They are, and they
Okay.
live here in
Good.
Puget Sound. And although we are the Huskies, I'm rather fond of the octopus myself. So that's my lucky.
Excellent.
He'll be keeping us company.
Probably doesn't make the best mascot for a sports team, so I can understand that.
Yes, I can imagine. You don't want one on the field.
Right. Well, I am excited to talk to you today. I have never done prospect management myself, as a position inside an employee situation. And you have this, really interesting background at the University of Washington. I'm hoping we can jump right in and have you explain to us what it's like to be in the day in the life of a prospect manager and how you started doing that at University of Washington.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I have to come clean, of course, and that's that prospect management is one of the shops that I'm in now. But I did run it for several years. I can't say that I started it from absolute scratch, but I was really one of the first here. It was great. It was a great opportunity. I'll just go back in time. I had a small background in software, very small, like little Excel programming in the early 90s when we were all kind of fumbling our way through whatever we were doing, early access databases. And but my background was museum studies. I went to try to get a master's degree in museum studies. I love museums, everything about them. So the nonprofit world really called to me very early, and it became obvious working in the museum that I was really attracted to two different areas really strongly. One was the database, and I worked in a collections database for many years. But the other was the donors that came in and said, this is what I'm bringing out of my attic. I want to give it to you. Or I always love the collections, and I think a lot of people who are initially drawn to museums think they want to work in the collections. And frankly, that's absolutely wonderful. But I'm not that, what's the right word for it? I'm not that academic. I like people and I like databases. And that came out really quickly at the museum I was working at that time, which is actually here on campus, but pretty separate at the time from the university. It's a natural history museum. Loved it. It was great. I worked part-time at a science museum and an art museum, just cobbling things together. Pretty soon, though, the museum was trying to raise more money, as we all were in the 90s, trying to formalize development, and they needed a development coordinator just to help them cash checks and send thank you notes to the donors, the very simple things. And I was lucky enough to get that job, and it was a dream job because I got to work with their membership, which meant the membership database that they had, and then also the actual members who I loved. I loved doing donor events. I loved talking, they put me behind the bar and I pour wine and get to meet all the names that I saw in the database. It was charming. So I did that for a couple of years, and I thought what I was drawn to was the annual fund, which is not entirely different, right? It's data and people and loving it. And I really tried that for a while, and I eventually came to the University of Washington. Our central advancement team has an annual giving team, and I loved it. It was really fun, but it wasn't the right fit at the time. This was the year 2000. That was at that time that the university had purchased its newer database, its newer CRM, and realized that prospect management was something they had to do. They already had a pretty robust research shop. There were, I think, 4 researchers at the time. They were smart. David Lamb was the man who started our research shop, and he's, as you know, a god. And he was wonderful. He chose to leave around this time to really go off and focus on what he was going to go off and focus on, which is being an expert in helping people get their stuff together for research. But we had a pretty robust research shop, but they needed somebody to do prospect management. And the job is different enough that they kind of looked around at some of the fundraisers. I was an annual giving fundraiser, not a major gift fundraiser, certainly. And they had heard that I had some background with data and was interested in it. And the woman who was in charge of the research shop at the time then was a woman named Lisa Thomas. Some of you know her. She was an APRA board member for a few years. And Lisa came and approached me and said, hey, we want to really do prospect management strategically. This is an opportunity. Are you interested? And it sounded perfect. I loved it. So I get to still keep my fingers really dirty in the data. I get to work not with donors anymore, which is sad and I miss them, but with the fundraisers who I treat like my donors. And I got to join a great shop of really professional, smart researchers, and then later on some prospect management staff, and now today analytics staff, who all have similar passions of being curious and really wanting to get somewhere and make the UW an even better place than it is. So it's a long, silly road that we all have taken into development. But I really feel grateful that I get to spend my days working with people and working with data, a little bit of both.
Yes. Well, you and I had an exchange before when I was digging around for some information. And that whole data people, it's very, it can be an unusual combination of skills. And I'm surprised to hear you came out of annual fund as a gift officer. That's really fun.
It was.
That's
I'm a people
different.
person. Yeah, I'm definitely one of the most extroverted people on our staff. But I'm one of those what they call an ambivert. I bet half the people watching this are too. I like a lot of extroversion. I love people. I like dealing with people, but I do need to recharge and read books and spend quiet time contemplating. So I think our profession is really geared really well for people who can do that. And so it's worked out pretty well for me.
And how brilliant of Lisa Thomas to recognize that she needed both skill sets.
Well, I can't speak to that, but I can say Lisa is brilliant and still remains brilliant. She's still here. So we're very lucky here.
Great. That's really cool. So what are you doing now? You're not in the prospect management role, you're in a management role, right?
That's right. So here at UW, as with many of my colleagues at larger research institutions, the shop gets very big, as you can imagine. And so over time, each of our 3 divisions, prospect research, prospect management, and analytics, has really, they've grown to the point where each of them needs a director. And so I get to work with all 3, and we're all one very strong team. But now I do a lot of the management. So I decide a lot of policy. I try and figure out how we can maximize our resources. But mostly what I do is make sure that the directors have whatever they need to do, because they're top notch and they're taking all their programs further than I can even imagine taking them.
That's wonderful, because that's a special people skill too, being able to manage anything or anyone.
Well, it's certainly not intuitive. Nobody, you can learn. You have to really focus on it. That's the key thing. Nobody wants to, but you've got to focus, and that's it. If you make your people shine, then everybody's happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really neat. So we kind of did hear your backstory, how you landed in prospect research, your love of museums,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. And I couldn't help but notice on your LinkedIn profile, you had this alphabet soup of association memberships. And I know we met at an APRA International Conference. We met live there. So I also saw that you chaired the Relationship Symposium for APRA for 7 years. That's a long time. Tell me all about that. How's that impacted you and your career?
That's actually a slightly misleading.
Oh.
So APRA does a symposium every year. You probably know this, and they do a different topic every year. So this year's topic in 2016 that just happened in November was on leadership. And so they choose a different topic every year. So the first relationship management symposium, I want to say, was back in 2005, 4. My children were very young. I did it with Chris Cannon. So they did one in that year. I want to say it was November of 2004. Cannot remember. Anyhow, it was 2004, 2005. And then they did it again just a few years back. And I got to come back again and do it with Brock Sylvie, who is amazing, and Emily Walsh, who is also amazing. So both times I got to partner with some other great professionals who had really good differing experiences with prospect management. Plus the difference in time, prospect management had evolved quite a bit, and so did technology.
Oh, wow.
So it was really fun to be able to revisit it. And really the most fun thing was to sit in a room full of great professionals. In both cases, APRA of course has the best of the best. And it was really great to sit in that room of, 80 or 100 people and just talk about some of the issues that we think about with prospect management all the time. And so both times were a real treat. I also did have an opportunity to chair the track in one of the APRA international conferences. And so definitely have tried to stay heavily involved. That was when I was heading the relationship management shop for almost all of that. But I have been director here it's been 10 years now. So it's been a long time.
Why would you get so involved with your associations? Like what impact does it have for you? How does it help you?
Well, I feel like I get the most out of it in every case because I learn so much. Every organization is different, and every organization has strengths and challenges. And what I'm facing as a challenge today may be very different than what the Humane Society is facing down the street, or World Vision is down in Federal Way. And these are all really key things that I need to think about at some point. So I love hearing the thought processes that I get to hear. So yes, I'm going to do a presentation, but thinking about that, well, first of all, the thought process of putting a presentation together is an excellent exercise in and of itself. You really learn what you know and what you don't know, which is really nice. Plus, you have an opportunity to interview experts. But then you get there, you do your presentation, but it's also a dialogue between some people who know a lot more than you ever will, some people who care about very different things, some people who have not thought of the same things you have. And it's a chance to just share knowledge with people who are trying to do the exact same thing I am, make their organization stronger for their organization and with their resources, which may be entirely different than mine. So it's always a treat, and every organization gives me a different point of view. APRA is, one of the ones I'm most fond of course, but AFP, every time I go and talk to fundraisers or fundraising support staff like ourselves that do, prospect development work or advancement services work or annual giving work or alumni work or marketing work, I learned something new about content management databases or about acquisition strategies. And while I don't use them in my everyday conversations necessarily about prospect development, it's good to know what my fundraisers are worried about and what they're thinking about. So I think all those professional organizations help you with that, expanding your worldview and learning from other people who are, have thought about things I'll never get a chance to experience myself.
Well, I am so glad you said that about speaking and participating with associations, because a lot of people are afraid to write that article or speak at a conference because they feel like they don't know enough. But that's not what it's about. It's not about spilling your guts. It's about exchanging, connecting, and sharing.
There's so much about being an expert that comes with that. That's great. You can be an expert, but really sharing your thought process of having gone through whatever it is you've gone through is an eye-opener for everyone. People who have gone through, if you're doing an RFP process for a vendor, or if you're doing if you're implementing a database conversion, or if you're developing reports on a new visualization tool, all of those things are things that other people want to know about. Either they haven't been through it, or they went through it and they weren't successful. And so, I hope that people will get braver about sharing, because even when you share and you say, we did this totally wrong, it's a great learning opportunity for all of us. And we've all been there. Nobody's going to judge you, because we've all been there and done things we wouldn't do today. But that's how we learn.
That's so true. And if you don't know the answer, or if you don't feel you're an expert, you can interview, as you mentioned.
Right. Ask somebody else and get the best, get best practices. They're all out there.
So when we had exchanged previously, and today you mentioned to be a great prospect manager, you want to have the database experience. You want to be a people person because you're working with the fundraisers. And then you sort of alluded to that maybe third leg of the stool, which is the fundraising knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
How have you pulled all that together when you were directly doing the prospect management? Can you give us an example of, how that comes together in a typical day or week? Or
Sure, I can try. How about that? I think, it's a slightly different skill set, although certainly a lot of overlapping things with prospect research. I find that for me, the way that my brain catalogs it is that a prospect researcher is excellent at organizing information about the prospect and what's going on in the organization, and doing sort of the matchmaking and the information strategy that comes out of knowing a lot of different aspects about usually the prospect and how they can work. Prospect management is much more about internal behavior. What are you doing with the prospect? And that requires a lot of data collection and organization, which is a little bit more data structure rather than information analysis. Data structure and then analysis of it, and instead of information acquisition and analysis, which is more research. I do think it's critical, of course, the people skills. I'm always a huge advocate. Of course, I've just told you that I'm moderately extroverted, so maybe I'm a little biased there. But I know a million introverts that are excellent people. People. Is that the term? I think it's really important to spend the time getting to know your fundraisers, much like they have to work to get to know their donors. And it's about listening. It's that listening skill. If you're a fundraiser, yes, you can find somebody who loves you and has given your organization $1,000 a year for the past 5 years. You can go out and sit down and ask them to give you a $10,000 campaign gift. You could do that because you know enough. But you could also go out and listen and hear what it is, how they want to change the world with their philanthropy. And that may lead to an even more robust gift, but what it definitely will lead to is a longer term relationship. And that's true with the fundraiser too. As a prospect development professional, whether you do research or analytics or prospect management, you can send out a profile or a fundraiser accountability report from prospect management, or the result of analytics. Here's your best prospects with high likelihood scores, whatever it is. You can send that out via email. You can do whatever you want. But if you sit down face to face and joke about the snow, we got snow today. If you joke about the Huskies and what we're going to do in the Peach Bowl for 5 minutes, you establish an immediate trust that it's something like a donor relationship you develop over time. And it doesn't always come easy. It's not always great. We do ask our team here to, every time they're meeting, we meet with each fundraiser regularly, quarterly. And we ask that at the beginning of every meeting, they conscientiously spend a few minutes doing small talk. And, that's not necessarily, some people want to get business done. Fundraisers are that way too. But take a minute and just bring up something you remember from last time, or ask them about that new dean, or whatever it is. Just 2 seconds worth, make a connection, so that when they pick up the phone and they want something, they're not calling to order something off the internet. they're ready to have that conversation about what it is you want to do research on. What is it you wanted to know about that donor? They're not going to call and just say, send me a profile of everything you know. And it's those conversations, the deeper the relationship, the better. And they do get very touching over time. The third, the knowledge of major gifts. I think it's easily learned. Certainly there's a million training opportunities, but I do find it really interesting when you hire somebody from the outside. Part of the onboarding process that I'd like to work harder at here for all of my team and colleagues I meet in other departments is, what is it to do major gift fundraising? What's the experience of a fundraiser? I did annual gifts work. That's not major gift work, but it's one step closer. I also took, we had a professional fundraising certificate here at the UW in continuing education. It's the same as doing, AFP work, going to AFP and CASE, which tend to be more fundraiser focused than they are prospect manager. You can go to APRA every year and they're excellent. But if you do go to a fundraising conference or even just, look up YouTube fundraising videos, you get an idea of what they're thinking about during the ask and what they're thinking about in that cold call, or what they're thinking about in developing volunteer committees. And that only helps us do our job better. So we know what they're worried about when they're not meeting their numbers, or they know what they're worried about. We know what they're worried about when their dean says, or their director or their CEO says, we need a new facility. Well, immediately, every fundraiser and every prospect development professional that you talk to will have to start thinking about how to structure, a capital campaign. And you should have some shared language about that and some shared understanding about what the pain points are going to be, so that you can be one step ahead in providing the information analysis that they need. So I think having a strong understanding, easily learnable, but you have to take the time to really try and walk a mile in their shoes. Some prospect development people advocate going out on donor calls with your fundraisers. We haven't done that here, but I think it's a great recommendation. If nothing else, wow, it's great to put staff here through reading contact reports, even if they're not, for our prospect research staff, that's, they get a copy of every contact report their fundraiser files, so that they know exactly what happened in this last conversation, so they can try and be one step ahead in providing strategy for them.
I'm with you. I think it would be fun, at least once in a researcher's lifetime, they need to go out on a visit of some kind, just to get the feel for the butterflies. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we all believe in something, maybe here I work for the University of Washington, but my passion is saving the octopus. And I can recruit somebody to join the aquarium. I could sit down and talk somebody into that. I can be a fundraiser too.
Yes, so true. So in your illustrious career, what are the top 3 things or so, whatever you want to share, but the things that have most impacted or helped you along that you could point out to others?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I feel like a shill, but I have to really say that APRA has helped a lot. It's just such a resource. And I think we all do get involved with other professional organizations, and I love them all. They're great opportunities, but for whatever reason, APRA is really great about making sure that people get what they need and get connected to the people they need. I'm continually impressed. So I sound like a shill, but it has made a difference in my career, and me personally getting involved with it has made a difference in my career. So that's one. One thing I'm saying a lot about, one thing that I have found has been very helpful for me is to, really take control of learning some things that have helped me in our shop. And this is not true in every shop, but in our shop, and I think in the future in every shop, the value of data is increasing, right? Data is becoming a more important asset for everybody. So I think gaining some very rudimentary but solid data skills has helped me a lot. So it started with Microsoft Access, being able to do that. And, I've moved on and learned a few new things. Some people on our staff have taken the time to learn. Our analytics team knows R and SPSS very well. A few of us have dabbled in Tableau. Nothing that's really out of the ordinary. Sorry, I'll turn off the phone. Sorry about that. Nothing that's out of the ordinary, but what it has helped us with is when we're partnering with people who have information, whether they be vendors or our own internal information management team, which at every organization, it may be you if you're prospect development, but a lot of times you're just working with somebody else who is a absolute data expert, way beyond skills I'm ever going to have. It's helped me in conversations. I can sit down and be like, how do you do that? Why are you doing it that way? It's also helped me, for instance, if somebody needs something very quickly and it's not super complex, I can do it myself. An example is, we're going to a bowl game. Go Huskies. We're going to a bowl game this year. We're very proud of that. But anyhow, at the very last minute, we get a bowl game as a scramble. You have 2 weeks. You get tickets, orders. We need to know who is going to be a VIP that's going to the bowl game. So our information management team is more than willing to help. But if somebody needs a turnaround in an hour and they want to know who on that list is a VIP, it doesn't even have time to get to information management. So I have to be able to say, at least I can, do that rudimentary data work. I find not too many prospect development people like this, but occasionally I find other kinds of colleagues who will say, I can't get that done because information management doesn't have the time or resources to attend to what my need is. And that's true for me too, of course, right? We all have a list a mile long of what we need. I want better LinkedIn data, better this data, but there are a lot of things that I encourage other people to take it upon themselves, learn to do some of the things that aren't too difficult and just do them, because it makes you more fluent, it makes you more trusted, and oh, bless you. And you can get stuff done sometimes when you just be more self-sufficient when it comes to data. Data is an asset. We all know it. We all see it's becoming more and more valuable, and it always has been in our world. We are in a unique position to be experts on it. So, leverage that. Absolutely leverage it if you can. Anything you can do to teach yourself. The third thing that's really helped me, I could probably list 80 things that have helped. I feel like it's a journey that we're all taking together, right? I didn't do this by myself. I have had tremendous support from my superiors and from UW Advancement. UW Advancement is a very strong shop. We have benefited from strong leadership, smart leadership, and kind leadership. And all that support means the world and has allowed not only me to grow and flourish, but also me to hire people who are happy and eager to work here because they're allowed to grow and flourish. And they know that we, the UW, has our backs. They have my back. I know they do. So I'm going to say it's a great environment, and not every workplace is. And I know that. And we've all had those experiences. And sometimes you have an opportunity to influence your culture, and you should. But if you can't, find a culture where you do thrive. Do it, because everybody has something to shine about. And it's always you're happiest when you do. So find it if you can.
That's great. So your APRA membership, actively participating, has helped you learning things that may be outside the scope or on the periphery, but especially about data, and then finding a culture where you are allowed to thrive or fit in. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great advice for others.
Yeah. You do better work when you're happy. We all do better work when we're a little busy, right? You can't be not busy enough. You have to be busy, but you also have to know that if my personal world goes south, then my work world has to be okay. And it is. I know that. So.
Excellent. Well, what advice do you have for those who are looking to pursue a prospect management position?
Good question. Well, if it's prospect management specifically, as opposed to research or analytics, I would say definitely understand database structure. You just understand how data relates to it, what databases are being used, how they're being used, because you're going to be the person, hopefully, the architect of how you collect and disseminate information about your fundraisers and how your prospects are being worked internally. I would say make sure that you're confident in talking to people, because one thing prospect management often deals with is performance. And if you are a metrics-based shop, which more and more shops are, if you are metrics-based shops, you're going to need to be comfortable talking about how the metrics are an ally for you, and it's not an antagonistic relationship. The numbers are the numbers. They're not there to say you're good or bad. We're here to make sure that your good work's reflected. So be comfortable with that. You have to be comfortable. And I would say in prospect management, make sure you understand major gifts. What are your fundraisers worried about? Take the time to not only read great books on prospect development that we know there's a ton of, and they're really good and helpful, but make sure you read a book on the art of making an ask, or 7 phases of philanthropy, or whatever it is, and what your basic fundraiser is thinking about, because what they're not thinking about is recording their activity in reports, and that's what you need to be thinking about. So I would say those things, and being excited to make a difference in your organization. Move it forward.
Yeah, great. And then to take it back to you, what's the next step for you? What's your ultimate dream career ending or next step in a career?
That's great. We actually did a bulletin board here. One of the team members put it up of baby pictures not baby pictures, sorry, what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were a little kid, and nobody guessed mine, but we all had good ones. It was a perfect prospect development shop. We had somebody that wanted to be a librarian and somebody else who wanted to be a reference librarian. We had an astronomer, a soccer player, a businessman, that was my favorite one, and a pony. Somebody wanted to be a pony when they grew up. So none of those things were exactly what I wanted to be when I grow up, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So I'm open to that. But what I do know is that I want to be in a situation where I work with people and data, because that's what makes me happy. I think where I could, leverage more. Well, first of all, I'm super happy where I'm at. Sorry, people who want to come work for you, you're not getting my job. Just kidding. You could come. I think there's just more and more opportunity to work with fundraisers and marketing to continue that engagement sphere and to make that much more data-driven and analytic. And I think that's one area that I could help some shop with. I love working on sort of the overall strategic plan for how we're going to maximize our information. What do we need? What can we use? What will make a difference? And I absolutely love working with our fundraisers. So where would I go? Besides sitting in my chair right here, I could see doing consulting work, in that there's a lot of great organizations that would be fun to work with. I could see doing advancement services work, helping, guide and shift how we just do our entire information architecture. I could see possibly doing an annual giving stint, like running an annual giving team, although that's not probably my strength. I'd have a lot to learn. Certainly anything that allows me to make sure that some nonprofit that I'm passionate about is going to make a huge difference in the world. And frankly, I feel like the next job I have will be something creative I don't even know about.
I think you might be right, especially, moving towards that, bringing marketing and fundraising closer together with data. There's so much opportunity there.
There's a ton of work to be done. All good.
Yes, and who knows what new technological advancement will happen in the next 5 years. Could shift the way we think about everything.
Absolutely. Things, who knows?
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. That was fun and fascinating. There was so much I didn't know about you. It was great to hear.
Well, it was a treat, and I always enjoy speaking with you, Jen, and I appreciate being asked. That was really kind, and I look forward to meeting whoever it is that I have an opportunity to meet. If people are watching this and they want to call, I love chatting, so call anytime.
So how would you like to be contacted? Phone? You're on Twitter too, right?
Yeah, probably, Twitter or email is best for me, only because I'll return faster if you get get to me that way. My Twitter handle is shqxx, and my email is shq@uw.edu. Anyhow, people can find me.
That's
I'm
easy.
sure these are very smart people. They will find me.
Great. Well, until the next time we chat, Susan.
I look
Have a
forward
great
to
day.
seeing you sometime in real life.
Yes, soon.
Take care.
Hopefully.
Have a lovely
All right.
weekend.
That was Susan Hayes-McQueen, Senior Director of Prospect Management, Research, and Analytics at the University of Washington, as part of our Career Curious series. For more prospect research resources, join the discussion in the Resource Collections community at prospectresearchinstitute.org.